working, and then we'll open it up. All right, here we go. And the attendees are pouring in. Kia ora tato. It's Georgia Hatches from Digital Boost. We're here with James Fuller from Henry for another Q&A event here, which we love to do. Last time we had James, we were talking about tax tips for sole traders. This time it's business tips for sole traders. So my blood pressure isn't going to go up every time you say the word tax, like it's doing right now when I start saying the word tax. James is going to talk to us about how we can just grow our business from, I guess, beginning to end. No, we don't want to end it. We want to grow it. We want to keep going. So James, take it away. Welcome back.
Fantastic. Thank you. Really appreciate you bringing me back. And again, like we were saying earlier, I enjoy doing this session a lot more than I do talking about tax. Whilst, tax is thrilling, I'd much rather talk to people about how to grow their business. I want to talk about kind of social presence. What are the things you could do to kind of maximize your opportunities in business? So I do have some slides. It's not going to be death by PowerPoint. We'll keep things nice and light. But let me just share this with you now. Awesome. Hopefully everyone can see that okay.
I can see it, yeah.
So just a very brief intro to me. My name is James Fuller. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Henry. And I'll talk a little bit about Henry a little bit later, but as one of the country's largest accountancies and accounting software providers, we have a wealth of knowledge about business and wealth of knowledge about specifically sole trader businesses. And so we've put together this session to run people through some of those key tips, and some of these things you'll look at and go, great, I do that stuff, I'm on top of it. And some of these things hopefully will be brand new for you and will be really valuable for you in how you run your business. So this morning, we're going to cover topics like how to get regular work as a sole trader and how to earn regularly as a sole trader, which is always one of the biggest things. We're going to talk about how to price your services. So your products and services, how do you do pricing? We're going to talk about that and what works, what doesn't, what are the tips. We're going to talk a little bit about tools. So what tools can you use to make yourself as efficient as possible? We're going to talk about getting paid. So not just getting regular work, we're going to talk about how do you get paid and how do you make sure you get paid on time. And then we're also going to talk about managing the financial side of things, which is very important. But we're not going to talk about tax. I'm probably not going to say the words income tax more than once. So everyone's blood pressure will hopefully stay in a good place.
That's your one time you said it. You're not allowed to say it again. I'm keeping track.
You're allowed to call me out on it. If I say it again, I don't know. I will have to profusely apologize to everyone. All right. Okay.
But before you get started as well, I do want to mention to everyone who's listening, please pop any questions into the Q&A. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to field them for James, so you can get your questions answered while we've got him here. So yeah, don't be shy. Just get in there. This is me telling you how to do a question, put your question in like that.
Good. In case you weren't sure how to do that. Yeah. And I always say to people, feel free to put your heckles in for the end. Like if you want to heckle, I will take heckles at the end. But yeah, just engage. That's the big thing, right? Like we're all here to be part of this community. So if you've got questions, please do ask them. Please provide comments. It's always very helpful.
What if they have tax questions, James?
I will answer tax questions without saying the word income tax. How about that? We'll see if we can do that.
Okay, fantastic.
I'll have to call it something else. But yeah, feel free to literally ask anything. Okay, so let's get started. So let's talk about how to grow your business as a sole trader. And so when you're an individual, one of the most important things to you is your personal brand. You are someone who is running a business and people will engage with you. You are the sole trader. Yes, you might have a trading name, but you really need to put yourself out there and be someone that people want to purchase from, whether you're a personal trainer or whether you're running a market stall or an e-commerce site. You need to have a personal brand. You need to be someone who is known in your particular community. And so obviously there are some fantastic ways out there to cultivate a personal brand. Social media is fantastic for doing this. And so it's really important to think about the right channels for yourself. And there can be a tendency, and we see this a lot with sole traders, who they will start their business and they will say, okay, I'm going to be a personal trainer. And they will literally go, I need to be on Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn and Reddit and everything. And they go and sign up for like all the social medias. And then they start to go, cool, I'm going to put the same content on every single one of those platforms. And it's just overkill. The easiest thing to do is to look at your community, the people you're targeting as your customers, and going, where do they hang out? Are these Facebook people? Are these Instagram people? Are these TikTok people? And actually really find the right channels for your industry. It's really important. So a lot of people who work in white collar jobs tend to use things like LinkedIn, but you don't find a lot of personal trainers on LinkedIn trying to tout for business. So choosing the right channel is really important to make sure you get good value. And so a lot of times what we recommend is that people really grow and leverage their network. So what we mean by that is, you know, people know you. You want to be able to encourage those people to talk about your products and services. You might want to speak to friends and family about what you're doing. You've probably got current and former clients that you would like to talk about your services. You want to grow your business. You want them to talk about your products. One of the things that's really important is to build good, strong relationships with your current clients. And all too often we see people kind of treat the people who buy from them as sometimes it's a bit of a number, or they're always looking for the next client on the list or the next thing. But the guaranteed way to get repeat business is referrals. And that is, you know, I mean, at Henry, we have something like a 40% referral rate. So 40% of everyone who signs up to our service first heard about us through friends and family. And that is such a powerful thing. The network effect is what it's called, which is where people who buy from you, they will sell your services for you if they like it. They will go and tell other people, hey, I just bought this thing from this person. It is fantastic. You should get one too. And so the more you set your business up in a way that encourages referrals, and for some people, I get it, like if you're slightly introverted, it can be difficult to put yourself out there and ask people to recommend to others. But if you create something, a product or a service that other people really enjoy, you shouldn't feel shy about asking them, hey, do you know 2 or 3 other people who might benefit from this in the same way? Would you mind introducing us or talking to them about our service? If you're a personal trainer, for instance, and I always use this example, speak to your existing clients. Hey, do you have anyone else who would benefit from my services? If you're selling things at a market, you say, well, actually, do you know other people? Go listen to your customers, have them tell you how you can find other people to sell to. And, you know, we often talk with, particularly with people who are in contracting roles, we talk about using recruiters. Whilst, you know, recruiters for some people can be a bit of a dirty word, this is an entire industry that is incentivized to get you work. And that doesn't mean that you have to work in white collar jobs. There are agencies and there are intermediaries for all types of industries to help get you work. You know, use the sort of the opportunity to broadcast your services via these recruiters or agencies or third parties, but genuinely engage in that process. Very, very important that you are present in your business, you know, that you're actually being able to think about your business as an ongoing thing. It's not just, hey, I make this thing and I sell it on the weekends. You actually have to invest your time into it and say, how am I going to grow this business? And that doesn't just mean I will make more of the thing that I sell. It's actually going, how do I find new channels to sell to, or new ways to sell this product, or ways to sell this service in bulk or for longer? And that takes active involvement. And that's the difference between a hobby and a business. And a hobby is just something, oh yeah, I enjoy doing this thing, but you know, I might make some money off it one day. And then a business is something that you're investing yourself. Some of your week or all of your week is invested in growing it. And that's really what we're going to talk about for the rest of today. How do you do that as efficiently as possible?
James, before we move on, I have a couple of questions. One, would you incentivize, or would you recommend incentivizing referrals through your existing customers by maybe offering them, I don't know, a little discount on their next service or a free little something? Would you recommend something like that? Because then it's not so much that you're asking them to do something which could feel kind of yucky. Like,
yeah, it does feel yucky. Like it does feel yucky. And like, we actually experimented with this a few years ago when we first started. We offer for Henry customers, for instance, if you refer a friend and they sign up, they get $25 free Henry fees, and you get $25 free Henry fees. And we thought, because a lot of people do this, and we thought we were really clever, right? We thought, oh, we've nailed it here. People are going to refer to this. And one day, one of our customers told us, this is like in 2019, she was on the phone to us about something else, and she said, hey, I just want you to know, I tell everyone I know about Henry and how awesome it is, but I don't use the promo code because I need them to know that I'm telling them for them, not for me. And so there are pros and cons to that kind of referral where you give someone something as an incentive, because it doesn't become about necessarily for some people about helping other people and letting them get the benefit of your services. It becomes, yeah, well, I get $25 if you sign up. So
oh, that is so interesting, because then it becomes that psychological game of, is it really worth it? You're just trying to get a discount out of this.
Totally.
Whoa, I didn't even think about it that way.
There's so much psychology around it. And so, sometimes people will do that out of the goodness of their own heart. So we ask people to review us on Google or Trustpilot, and we say, hey, could you go and review us if you're if you're enjoying the service, please review us. But it's amazing where you start to look at those incentives and you say, well, there are some potential negative impacts of that, where the people who are being referred to aren't as engaged in the product. But in some industries, it works very, very well. But I would always be careful about offering those incentives to the referrer, as opposed to the person who's being referred. It might just be that the sort of new people who are getting referred in get something, but the person who does the referring is doing it out of the goodness of their heart.
And then my second question is, talk to me a little about the recruiters you were saying. Like, what is their role? How do they work? And how do they get you more business?
So if you're working in an industry as a sole trader that has a recruitment industry, so you sort of creative freelancers or anyone in technology or white collar roles or trades roles, there are organizations set up out there as recruitment agencies who are approached. They sort of run a two-sided marketplace. So on one side, there are companies like Henry and others that will approach a recruiter and say, hey, we need 5 graphic designers, or we need 3 people to come and work on this building site, or we need 3 business analysts. And the recruiter is paid by those organizations to go and find the best people for the job and go and engage with the wider industry. And so as an individual on the other side of that, recruiters can be an avenue that can provide you access to these companies. They can say, well, actually, these are people who are incentivized to place me into a contract role. And so there's nothing to stop you going to 15 different recruiters and getting on their books and going and meeting them and saying, hey, I'm interested in these kind of roles. Here is my, whatever it is, CV, LinkedIn profile, whatever it might be. And you say, when something comes up, you may not have something right now, but I want to be considered for this role. And if you engage with recruiters in an active way, you're literally doing their job for them, right? Rather than asking them to go and scour and find the right person. If you turn up and say, these are my skills, this is what I'm looking to do, remember me when roles like this come up because I'm available, they will come to you and they'll say, hey, I've just had something come on my desk, or someone talked to me the other day about this role. I think it would be a great thing for you. But you have to engage. You can't sit back and say, like, when I used to live in London, recruiters cottoned on to a really interesting, again, psychological technique, is that they would ring up and they wouldn't introduce themselves as being a recruiter. They would introduce themselves as being a headhunter. Because if you are headhunted for something, you're like, oh, someone's come to me specially and asked for me. Whereas actually, if recruiters say, I'm headhunting for a role, usually over here, what that means is, I saw your profile on LinkedIn, I found out your phone number, and I've just called you out of the blue. And so it's a really interesting thing. But whilst, yes, they are incentivized to place people into roles, that can be very beneficial for you if you're a freelancer or a tradie or a contractor or someone who works in an industry that has recruiters. It is totally free to go and register with recruiters and to put yourself out there and say, please come and talk to me if you have roles.
That's great. Thank you. And I just quickly want to say that Kira has a question, but Kira, I see your question. I'm going to wait until the end for this one, if that's okay with you, James.
Oh, that's fine by me. I'm not looking at the questions. So like, feel free. I'll just let you be in charge of that.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about pricing. And so it's worth noting that one of the earliest things we did with Henry was we wrote some content on our website about pricing with an excellent lady named Natalie Coombe. She is a pricing expert. I would thoroughly recommend going and checking out Natalie Coombe, Coombe. She has a great website. She is awesome at pricing.
We had Natalie on for a Q&A not too long ago. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Okay.
if you just go into Digital Boost platform, you can find the chat that we had. And I think we're going to bring her back maybe for a workshop. So just keep your eye out, everyone. But yeah, Natalie's
Amazing.
fantastic. Yeah.
So impressed by her. And so I'm going to paraphrase our take on some stuff that I think Natalie probably does a lot better than us. But I think when it comes to pricing, one of the things that people often struggle with as sole traders is to work out your minimums. Work out what is the amount you need to charge for your service or product that allows you to make money off it. And it's a really simple thing to talk about, but so often people, particularly when they have a business that is more creative, where they're building something or they're making something, it can be very easy to make something and then to say, how much do I think people will buy this for? Oh, I think this is a $10 product. Okay, I'll sell it for $10. And they don't realize that it cost them $15 to make each one. And it's so often, because especially when it's a labor of love and something we enjoy doing, we don't often think about those minimums. And so it's really important for you as an individual to work out how much you're going to sell your services at. And that's not a permanent thing. That's not a thing where you say, right, this is the only amount I'm ever going to make for this thing. But you have to understand what it costs you to deliver such a thing. If you were a tradie and you told a client that you'll come and do their roof for $100, and then you need to spend $5,000 on roof tiles, it's not great business. So it might be weird to think about, but actually looking at your numbers and even your own time and working out actually what is the amount that I need to charge in order to make this profitable. I think that the next point here is about, we talk about charging by the hour, but in order to work out whether or not you are profitable, you need to know how much your time is worth. And again, this is something that Natalie talks about quite a lot, which is actually working out a price for your time. So there's some of that might be an opportunity cost. So my time sitting down, and I'm going to show my age, but I don't know, importing Beanie Babies as my business. My time has a value, right? Like I could be doing something else with that time, like making something or working for a different client. So I need to almost know, okay, this is my sort of assumed hourly cost. And then you factor that in, which is it took me 10 hours of negotiation to get these Beanie Babies. Am I going to make that money back when I price these things up? And let me tell you, Beanie Babies are still very much in fashion, very much in demand. But you've got to understand how much your time is worth. And when we talk about tools a little bit later, it's really important to be able to understand those things that are going to save you time are the things that help you make more money in profit. So if I can find ways to optimize what I do and how I do it, that gives me more time to work with my clients and therefore more time to be able to go out and deliver more services or sell more products. So it's all about that efficiency. So working out, even if you just put a number on it and go, do you know what? Let's call it $20 an hour. You've got to have some number there that allows you to know whether or not it's worth your time doing something. So often people talk about like fixed rate pricing. So, some people, when they either quote for a piece of work to someone or they're going to do a job, they say, well, this is the cost. And they go, regardless of how long it takes me to do this thing, this is how much I'm going to charge you. So, I'm going to say to someone, to do your entire roof, it's going to cost you $500, whatever it might be. But when I get up on the roof, I realize that actually there's a whole load of cracked tiles. I need to do other work. It's more difficult than it was anticipated, and it's actually going to cost me more. I've already quoted $500 and I can't shift from that. And so that's where we get into this idea of estimates and give someone an estimate of how much something will cost or how much it's going to run to. And there's a bit of flex there that says, well, if it gets more expensive or it looks like it's going to cost more, I will come and talk to you first. Because it's all about client communication. If someone comes to me and says, hey, redoing your roof is going to be more expensive. I've realized this early. What would you like to do? I can just make good on the stuff that I've done, or I can do the whole job at slightly more. Then I have the option. Whereas if you come to me and say, hey, I know I said it was $500, turns out it's $1,500. I did the entire job without talking to you. Can you pay up now, please? So having strong relationships with clients, having open, honest conversations about pricing is really important. And so be wary of fixed rate pricing unless you're fully sure that that is exactly what a job is going to come in at. And it's a bit different if you're selling things, because you might be able to go, that's the exact price I sell for, and you're selling products. But if you're selling services, be conscious of fixed rate pricing and what that means for you. Sometimes we talk about kind of package discounts or bulk discounts. And this is a really good way to incentivize people to buy more at once. So for instance, you know, my amazing Beanie Baby shop that I run, I might say to people, hey, it's like $20 for 5 Beanie Babies. Honestly, I'm underselling these Beanie Babies. It's $20 for 5, but I'll give you a 10% discount if you buy 20 of them. And so what that encourages people to do is, oh, actually, I'll buy 20 because I want 20 Beanie Babies. I'll buy it for the 10% discount. But often when we're selling services rather than products, when I sell time, I sell, you know, as a graphic designer, as a personal trainer, we don't think about package deals. It's something it's really strange to me. Whereas if I'm a personal trainer and I say it's, I don't know, $50 a session for personal training, or if you book 12 sessions, the price reduces to 40. And because what you're doing there is you're guaranteeing work for the longer term. And you're saying, okay, I know that whilst it costs slightly less per session, if I only do 3 sessions with this person, I need to go and win another client in order to get more sessions. So if you imagine, what you want to do is keep your clients for the longest time possible. And so reducing your rates or your cost if they buy in bulk is a very common thing. If you're a graphic designer, you might say, I can do a job for you ongoing. It's 3 days a week. I'll do 3 days a week for 3 months. But if you buy 6 months worth of my time, I'll do 4 days a week. Because what you're doing is guaranteeing income. And as a sole trader, it's really important to look ahead and say, how can I guarantee the maximum income for the longest amount of time? And sometimes that means flexing your rates if people buy more of your service or your product at once. And lastly, very important, especially with cost of living, sole traders are terrible at raising their rates, awful at raising their rates. They're always the last people to turn around to their clients and say, you know what, this is actually costing me more to produce this thing, or it's costing me more to import or more to do this job. I need to raise my rates. And if you have long-term clients that trust you, they will not mind if you raise your rates in line with inflation. But you must consider it. And I know Natalie Coombe talks a lot about this, but you must consider it in the same way as foodstuffs, the New World, how they consider pricing. Okay, you know, we can complain about the price of grated cheese, but a lot of that might come from the cost of importing it or from the cost of manufacturing it. We as individuals, as sole traders, cannot take a loss on our work just because we're too afraid to talk to our clients about raising our prices. So really important that you consider that when you work out your minimums might change over time and you might need to adjust your prices. And so you need to make sure that keeps in line with inflation. You don't want to be, you know, taking a bath on a job, but you also don't want to, you don't want to kind of gouge your clients. So it's about having, again, open, honest conversations with your clients about pricing and when it's time to raise your rates.
So James, along those lines, raising your rates maybe once a year would probably be more than enough if you were going to do it. I mean,
yeah, you don't want to do it too often, because then people will think that you're just like gouging them or whatever. But if you have a set point and you have regular clients and you say, hey, well, I've done an annual review and, you know, the price needs to go up by $2 or whatever it might be. If that's what you need to cover your costs, you have to have that conversation with your clients.
And then you want to be pretty transparent about what these costs are, like why the price is going up.
Totally, exactly. And this is where people get annoyed at, you know, supermarkets, because we have no idea why cheese costs $8 a bag or whatever it is now. Like, no idea. We do, oh, well, you know, costs. Whereas if you go to your clients and you say, hey, the thing that I buy, the art materials I buy to produce this stuff, they've just gone up by 50%. I'm not trying to increase my margins here. I'm just trying to be able to keep my business afloat. Most people will look at that and go, okay, I can understand. And whilst you might lose a couple of customers who say, I just can't afford that, having that honest conversation is probably the best thing for your business.
Yeah, thank you.
So bringing the right tools. So we touched on it a little bit earlier about efficiency. It's really important that when you are in business, that you have the right tools at your disposal. If you know how much your sort of effective hourly rate is and how much it costs you to provide your products or services, getting the right tools, getting the right automation can really, really help, because it can streamline your everyday tasks. And so, if you're working for a client, if you're a sort of, I don't know, a graphic designer or a white collar contractor or a tradesperson, and you're working for someone else on a more of a full-time basis, if you can bring tools into your client's organization that improve their organization, they will thank you in kind, and they will retain you and continue to give you business. So I've done this a few times back when I was a freelancer, that you would work for clients and I would say, hey, I noticed that your team uses X, Y, and Z for rostering or for timesheeting. There's actually this tool that I've found that is really efficient at doing this. It's much cheaper than the one that you're using, just, in case you wanted to look at an alternative. And you're not there kind of touting for business saying, hey, I'll implement that thing for you and it'll cost you X, Y, and Z. You're literally spotting things in your client's business and saying, I can help you improve. You're sharing the benefit of your knowledge. And from that, the client will say, wow, that was really useful. Like, he wasn't asked to work on this, but had noticed an inefficiency that thought could be useful. And you might not have to work that hard to really improve your client's organization. Obviously, being organized is a big thing, especially with email. I have this problem at the moment that there's just like a deluge of email every morning, but you can get smart with it. You can set up filters and email rules to just get rid of stuff that you don't want to see and prioritize stuff you do want to see. It's so easy these days to get overwhelmed with the spam emails that come in and to spend time opening everything and removing it. Whereas actually you can set up your email client to filter off things based on the word in the subject line. And anytime anyone emails me around blah, I'm just going to archive it. I have no interest in looking at it. So getting organized with your email is really important, and being able to respond to emails that matter promptly. And we've all probably had this. You try and contact someone through one of those contact us forms on a website. I was trying to get a dead tree removed a few years ago, and contact us form, went and filled it in, and I got nothing. Crickets. There's something about contact us forms, I don't know what it is, that they just go into like a black hole, like missing socks out of the washing machine. I don't know what happens to these messages, but no one responds to them. And I think if you as a business owner can look at messages coming in and prioritize responding to them quickly, it is not hard to build really good long-standing relationships with clients, because those people will go away and go, do you know what? That personal trainer responded to my contact us form request immediately. I didn't have to wait and then chase up by phone and have to refer to the message that they never saw. Like, it is really easy to provide great customer experiences by being organized with your email and surprising people with how responsive you can be. Mastering your calendar is a really good thing. So I use a tool called Calendly, and it allows me to send a link to someone and they can see into my calendar and book a time for us to meet. So previously, when I was talking to people going back and forth of like, can you do 2 p.m. on Tuesday? And like, no, I'm away then. Oh, what about 4 p.m. on Thursday? Whereas actually, if you can take control and say, here is a link, you can see the spots that are available. I've allocated 30 minutes for this meeting. You find a time that suits you. It's a bit of a power play of like, you find time in my calendar, so you don't do it to everyone. But you can even put that on your website. If you're offering consultations, you can embed it in your website so that people can book time with you. You can do all sorts in terms of calendar management to make sure that if you're spending time with clients, you're spending it wisely. And a little bit about getting more out of your current tools at the bottom here. One of the things that I think is good for every sole trader business owner to know is when we talk about those channels earlier, where you go and talk about your service, whether it's social media, TikTok, LinkedIn, you have to know what on those platforms, what gets attention. And you're not on there kind of posting on LinkedIn to get one like, and that's it. You're posting on there because you want to drive engagement. You want people to know, I am in business. I am someone who is looking for work, or I'm selling products or selling services. And so on those channels, knowing what will get you the biggest reach is really important. And I'll talk specifically about LinkedIn because one of the things that I realized, and it will be appropriate in different ways on other channels as well. One of the things I realized a while ago is that you can, by posting certain things at certain times, you can get better reach than at other times. And I'll use LinkedIn as the example. So what I found was Tuesday mornings are a really good time to post stuff on LinkedIn at about 6:30 a.m. New Zealand time. And I think that's something to do with people are one day into their week and they're bored already. And so on the commute into work, they're scrolling through their phone. But if you post something on LinkedIn on a Tuesday morning, you don't just do a sort of a, straight up just post of some text. You want to do a really striking visual image, a link to an external trusted website, which might be the Herald or Stuff, or a website that has some authority. And then you want to, when in the message you write on LinkedIn, whatever you're posting about, you want to tag other people, not too many people, so 3, maybe 4 people maximum. You want to use hashtags on LinkedIn. I don't know why LinkedIn likes hashtags, but for some reason putting hashtags on the back bottom really makes a difference. And you also want to tag an organization or two. And so I've done this before where, I don't know, something has been announced that is relevant to our industry, and I've posted, great to see at Stuff writing a Herald, writing an article, and X, Y, and Z person in the Herald picking this up, and you just tag all of these people in it. And what that means is that where you've tagged people in it, it then appears to followers of them. So if I tag a Stuff journalist in an article that they've written, and I write some comment about it, not only do my followers on LinkedIn see it, their followers on LinkedIn see it. And then what happens is you start to see people reacting to the post, and people give a like or a thumbs up, whatever it might be. And the tendency can be, when someone leaves a comment, the tendency can be to comment straight away and reply to that comment. But I always say to people, do not reply to the comments for at least 24 hours, because posts on LinkedIn or other platforms need longevity. They need time for the platform to go, oh, this is still getting engagement 3 days later. We'll continue to promote it to as many people as we can. If your post only lasts 20 minutes, because you posted out there, all the comments are done in first 5 minutes, no one else engages with it, the platforms aren't going to push you out to the wider audience. So if people comment on your post, don't reply to those comments, just react to them. Just give it a like or something. And then what you do the following day, the Wednesday morning, is you go through and you respond to every single one of those comments, replying to it, thanking the person or giving a comment, but you've got to tag the poster in. You've got to tag the commenter in your response, because all of these tags and all of this engagement means that LinkedIn goes, wow, people are really talking about this post, and they're really tagging their friends in, and it creates artificial drive behind the post. LinkedIn goes, this is something that people are talking about. There are comments, there are reactions spanning 24 hours, 36 hours. There's people tagging other people into it. We will continue to push it. And I've had LinkedIn posts that have run for like 2 or 3 weeks, have hit like hundreds of thousands of views. Like, it is crazy how much you can game the system. And I'm not selling this as like, I sound like one of those scammy YouTube videos of like, I'm going to help you master social media, but just tips like that of understanding, like, when's the right time to post, when's the right time to contact people, getting more out of the current tools that you use, really understanding how they work is just so valuable for getting maximum value, even down to knowing how to use Google Sheets or Excel in a way that is fairly efficient. Even that, everyone goes like, I know how to do a spreadsheet, but do you really know how to save time with a spreadsheet? I could drone on about this for hours, but getting really deep into your tools and understanding how to save yourself time and how to maximize your reach and your impact is really important.
And then also what you had mentioned about social media, knowing your audience. So knowing if your audience is on LinkedIn, if your audience is on Instagram or Facebook, or knowing and efficiently using your time and energy in that particular place instead of everywhere.
Totally. So, and all of these platforms, they all have, it's a fancy word, algorithm. What that means is they're all hungry for stuff that people like or don't like. Like, you can post stuff on Facebook that gets lots of angry reactions, and Facebook will promote that post to other people who will also have angry reactions. So these platforms, they feed on engagement. And you don't want to give them all the engagement up front. You want to spread it out. It's like my kids. You can't give them the whole bag of lollies, because otherwise they'll never do what you want. You need to drip feed it, and you give them a lolly every time they do something good. So think of social
I guess
media.
I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it completely wrong then.
Yeah, don't give them
like take the whole bag, go in a corner, leave me alone.
Yeah, take the whole bag of pineapple lumps and just be quiet. So use Facebook and Instagram like a tool. It's something that has to be learned to be used, and you need to find out where your customers are, what they like to see, what they react well to, what they don't react well to, and then you start to think about, how do I drive the maximum engagement in a way that isn't just, I'm going to tag everyone I know in this post and say thoughts at the bottom of it, in the hope of driving some engagement. Like, genuine stuff on these social media platforms plays so much better than pre-rehearsed or staged posts, or just desperate claws for attention.
Right. But also we're talking about people who are time poor, which is pretty much all sole traders are time poor. And so also understanding that, in my understanding, what stops me from bringing on a new tool that will eventually create efficiency in my life is that there is a period of time where you have to put in the time to learn the tool. So you're going to be a little more time poor while you're learning the tool. Isn't that right?
You are. And I always say to people, the best thing that you can do is to put time, and again, mastering your calendar, is to put time in your week, every week, which is just some time to look into new tools or to identify a business problem you've got. And so I do this all the time now. Like, whenever I come across something where I find myself doing something repetitively, or I get annoyed with having to do something, the first thing I think is, I'm sure there's a tool for doing this. And putting some time aside in your calendar as an hour a week that is your time to solve a business problem, to work sort of in your business for a minute, kind of solving a problem, is really, really valuable. And you find that being able to learn how to use tools like Zapier, so Zapier, is an incredibly powerful tool. It's essentially an online service that you can use to connect two different softwares together. So I can connect Gmail through to Henry. I can connect Google Sheets with some sort of survey document. And there are thousands of these tools that you can just plumb together using Zapier, and it's all automated. So I was looking at one the other day. We capture partner leads from our website, and we wanted to push them directly into our CRM system, but those two systems don't talk to each other automatically. So you just use Zapier in the middle, and it's essentially a connecting tissue that allows you to connect apps together. And so that every time someone submits a partner lead on our website, Zapier picks that up, pushes that into our CRM. So all of those little automations, spending time, an hour a week, going, how do I make things more efficient so that I don't have to paste data from one thing to the other? It's just a natural thing you should be doing, getting a regular rhythm of making your business more efficient, because then you've got more time to do the stuff that you really want to do.
Yeah, and I think mastering your calendar, like you said, is the key here. When I think about having to take on more stuff, and like you said, if you're going to take on that stuff in this 1 hour per week, as long as we have it scheduled and organized. Not always my strong suit, but but good to keep in mind, like good to have that in the forefront of your mind. We've been talking about our calendars actually in the last few sessions we've had with different experts about mastering our calendar. And I don't know if that's because we're coming to the end of the year and everyone is thinking, oh, holidays are coming up, we're going to go on break and all of these things are going to happen. And we've got to get more efficient with our time. But I think this is the perfect time. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I'll do a Q&A about efficiency in our time management.
Absolutely. And worth noting, sessions like this are fantastic for it, but also go and talk to other people that are in and around your industry and ask them how they solve this problem. I remember when we first started Henry, there's a great guy, one of the founders of Mevo, the electric car share service that's in a few cities here in New Zealand. And that guy is one of the most efficient people I've ever met. And he introduced me to a whole bunch of new ways of doing things that would have saved me so much time if I'd known before. So by talking to people and by engaging, you can really understand, like, how does everyone else solve this problem? Okay, so let's talk about getting paid. So Obviously, it's one of the most important parts of running a business is making sure you get paid. But people are terrible at it because it feels icky. So invoicing promptly and correctly is something that people feel awkward with. You're trying to develop a relationship with a client. It can feel difficult to go to them and say, hey, I did that work. Can I have the money now? It feels very strange. But you have to get used to sending people invoices and owning the fact that, hey, I have done some work for you, or I'm doing some work for you. I would like to be paid for that work. Everyone who you're working for or you're selling products to is very well aware that you will be asking for money at some point. The clear thing is to understand what the terms are of the payment and to be clear about that with your client. So are they expecting that it's going to be cash up front, or is it actually, are you only going to get paid once everything's delivered? Are they putting down a deposit? All of those things. And it's on you to be transparent to your client and say, hey, I am going to deliver this thing to your house. I'd like to be paid up front, or I'm going to redo your roof. I'll send you an invoice once we're done. I might send you a quote or an estimate to start off with that you might want to accept. And then you've got some kind of, someone's accepted a quote and then you've delivered the work and the invoice comes later. But it's really important to actually send your invoices and to do the admin. Otherwise you don't get paid. And then it just gets really awkward. If it's a long time after the work has been done, it's hard to chase people down. People forget. So sending invoices promptly is really, really important. So as soon as the job is done, you need to strike while the iron is hot and send someone an invoice. But send people professional invoices. This is something we see people fall into the trap with. Like I always say, like, Brenda from accounts hates your custom invoice. Like, I see all these tools out there that let people put, like, they've got like pirate templates and all of this kind of stuff. And you've got like, oh, I can dress it up to look like it's printed on parchment paper or whatever. No, send a simple, basic invoice, because that's what gets paid quickly. As soon as someone has to look around and, scroll through your invoice to try and find where the payment details are, you're just making it too hard for them. And, I've always said to people, particularly creative freelancers who do this a lot, it's great that you can be creative with your invoices. But what that tells me as a client is you spent more time perfecting your invoice template than you did on the job that I asked you to do. So simple, I know they're not fun, simple, basic invoices, professionally laid out in a common structure. That's what gets you paid quickly. And it says to your client, I am professional. I know what I'm doing. I did not just spend 2 hours of my time perfecting the font on my invoice. Comic Sans is never a good way to go. I'm just going to say that. So professional invoices is really, really important. And oftentimes we can forget that and get swept away with like, I want to make my invoices look like my product or make it look like my service. Yes, put a logo on there, absolutely. But as soon as you get into jazzy colors and fonts, you've probably got better things to do than that. You've probably got other things you could be getting on with. All right, manage your unpaid invoices. So as we just mentioned, if you wait too long to actually follow someone up around an invoice, it's going to be out of the back of their mind and gone. So you need to have clear payment terms on your invoice, which is you expect to be paid within 20 business days or 5 business days. And if a client does not pay within that time, you need to follow them up. And it is icky, but you have to do it because otherwise they're just not going to do it. They're probably busy people. They've probably got busy lives. If you don't follow up and say, this invoice is unpaid, you need to pay it. And, at Henry, we built an entire feature into our app that automatically chases your invoices for you because all of our customers had so many of these icky conversations that they just weren't getting paid. And it wasn't because the client didn't like the work or they genuinely disputed anything. It's because the client forgets. So if you invoice promptly, you're clear about payment terms, then it's obvious what happens next. The client is going to pay 99% of the time. After you get paid, as a sole trader, do make sure you're doing something about tax, whether that's the main tax or GST or ACC. Just make sure you're making some provision for it. And I will do a shameless plug for Henry at the end of this, but it doesn't matter what you use, whatever that method is, just don't dip into your tax and go and buy yourself an iPhone like somebody did. You don't get that money back. And I ended up in a bit of trouble with IRD. So don't do it. It's not worth it. Put money aside for your tax, get it paid promptly. it's just not worth messing around with. It's going to save you so much hassle in the long run if you just put money aside. Which kind of brings us on to the sort of last bit before we can open up some Q&A, managing the financial side. So obviously, as a sole trader, you're entitled to claim expenses, the cost of running your business, everything from things that you buy to maybe home office expenses, or if you've got storage where you're storing things for your business. So knowing what you can claim is really, really important, because everything that you buy for your business reduces the amount of your income that you get taxed on. And that's a very important distinction. You don't get the money back. IRD is not giving us the money back for the expenses that we buy. I can't go out and buy something expensive and have IRD reimburse me for the things that I bought. What that means is, the way that it works, if I go out and I spend, over the course of a year, I spend $5,000 on my business and I've earned $50,000, I only pay tax on the difference between the two, so $45,000. So all of the things you buy reduce the amount of your income that you get taxed on. And so it's really important to know what you can and can't claim. If you do claim stuff that you're not entitled to, you do get in trouble with IRD. They don't take kindly to people trying to expense things that aren't for their business. As much as you want a business jet ski, IRD are probably not going to look favorably on it. You can swear blind that you hold business meetings on your jet ski. They're probably going to have an issue with it. So again, not worth messing around with. The pain it will cause you in the long term to be, and they've started putting it out in the papers now. If you're that person that gets caught with the business jet ski, it's going into Stuff and the Herald, and you will be known as the business jet ski person. You know who you are. So second thing, know your obligations. So being able to know when tax is due, whether that's paying it or filing it, it is on you. No one else is going to do this for you. You can get a traditional accountant and all they'll ever tell you is when you need to pay. If you're using Henry, we obviously pay your tax automatically, but we will still come to you and say, you still need to confirm your year-end information. And whilst that might only take you 2 minutes, it's still on you to do it. Like, no one else can submit your information for you unless you are involved in the process. So you can't be hands off and go, someone else does it for me. You need to be engaged. You need to know your obligations. And if you're not using Henry, you need to know your key dates. When are student loan repayments due? When is ACC going to come out for an invoice? When is the different types of tax? When are they going to be due? And there are payments that come out, mostly for most sole traders, there are payments every couple of months of the different types. There is no opportunity to sit back and hoard all of your tax money and spend it on different things. It just doesn't exist anymore. But having said that, things like putting money away for KiwiSaver and investments is really important. So planning for the future is something that sole traders are terrible at. We always look at it and go, oh, I'll do KiwiSaver later, or I'll plan for the future later. Just do it. Just set something up automatically. Have something go out of your account every month that's just going to KiwiSaver, or every time you get paid, whatever's easiest. But make sure you do it, because otherwise you'll get further down the line and wish you'd started earlier. And it's difficult to start doing it when you've been earning as a sole trader for a few years. Imagining taking 3% of your income and putting it into KiwiSaver is like, I kind of feel awkward doing that because I'm used to having that money now. I'd have to adjust my lifestyle. So as early as possible, just pay into KiwiSaver. The government literally gives you free money. If you pay over a certain amount into your KiwiSaver each year, they literally give you free money. And people don't seem to know this. And like, there's no catch. Like, the government matches your contributions of a certain amount. So just pay into your KiwiSaver and it's free money. Like, just, yeah. Anyway, if you take one thing away from this presentation, pay into KiwiSaver, free money every year. Also, finally, as a sole trader, very important, you don't get sick leave or annual leave. So make sure you put a little nest egg aside. And the guys at sorted.co.nz do a great job of explaining around this. We've done some work with Tom Hartman from Sorted. Excellent guy. Love that guy. So cool. But we used to talk about putting away 3 months. There was sort of 3 months worth of pay. But actually now the best way to think about it is to have a savings pot put aside that you don't touch, that is the equivalent of 3 months of your committed expenses, the things that you have to pay. That does not include Netflix. The things that you have to pay for every month. So that is rent, that is childcare, that is the food that you need to eat. Put away 3 months worth to keep you going if anything happens. That's a really good place to start from a savings perspective. But don't ignore it and go, she'll be right. I'll just come to that bit later. All right, I'm going to move on to some questions, but not before I get to do my shameless plug for Henry. I'm going to keep it short, keep it jazzy. So look, Henry is an all-in-one service for sole traders. We take care of all of your taxes every time you get paid so that you're always up to date. That's your GST, ACC, student loan, and I'm going to say it once, but income tax, that is twice. We take care of everything every time you get paid. We give you really great sole trader software so you can send invoices, you raise your business expenses and we review them for you. You can allocate money to savings and KiwiSaver every time you get paid automatically. And as your accountant, we review your expenses, we file your tax returns. The whole thing's a pay-as-you-go basis. Honestly, it is just, when I was a freelancer, I would have killed for something like this. I was using traditional accountant plus boring accounting software plus Stripe plus spreadsheets, and it was a nightmare. It was an admin nightmare. Whereas Henry basically takes care of all of this stuff for you. And if I won't talk about it anymore, but if you want to check us out, it's just hnry.co.nz. Go and check out some of our Google reviews. It's great to see how much of a difference this has made to people's lives. All right, shameless plug over. I now move on to, oh, look at my smiley face there. Now look onto Q&A. So I'll throw it over to you guys.
I think shameless plug was brilliant. I think Henry is amazing. And we've got a question here from Kira, who has been hanging on and waiting for this. And at the bottom, she wrote, P.S. I love Henry, which is fantastic. I am a hairdresser and I want to start stocking retail as my clients are asking for it. How do I put it through Henry so I get back what I paid, but do I only pay tax on the profits? And then what would the expense be for the products? Costs of goods sold. P.S. I love Henry.
Yes, so that is correct. It would, yeah, correct. Of course, you love Henry. No, cost of goods sold is spot on. That's exactly what you would put it in for. So if you're buying products that you're going to on sell, if you went and bought, well, it's a bit like when I go and import like 1,000 Beanie Babies, right? I go and buy them up front. I store them in my garage, like, you know, in a nice sort of non-humid environment so that they're pristine quality. But I've got 1,000 of these things. I'm not selling them all at once. So you can buy in for retail. You can buy some products that you store. Just raise that as soon as you purchase it, raise it as a business expense. And then when you come to sell it, you can then just invoice your clients, and you don't have to provide them the receipt of the 1,000 things that you bought. You say, hey, I'm making a sale for one Beanie Baby, and that's the point at which you can just price it at whatever price you like. You might have bought them for the equivalent of $5 a Beanie Baby, and you're selling them on for $7. That's fine. So just buy the stuff up front, add it as a business expense so that you get the tax relief on it. And then as you sell that product, you just invoice your clients for it and you make income that way.
I think that answers that question. Yeah, Kira, if you have another question, just type it in, let us know. Thank you for hanging on for so long. We have an anonymous question here. I think it may have been answered by your shameless plug, but let's see. Hi, James, is Henry suitable for a registered company with GST number? I think that's a yes.
GST, yes, but if you're a company, then we don't provide support for companies. Most people who have companies have they have debts, they have permanent staff, they have a lot of complexity. Often we see sometimes that sole traders have mistakenly set up companies thinking that you have to have a company to trade. And this is my plug for MB's Business Selector tool, which I'm sure we can put a link up for. A lot of people who are sole traders are recommended to start companies by traditional accountants because it makes them more complex and more costly. But you should have a look at MB's Business Selector, and it will tell you whether you need to be a company or not. The vast majority of sole traders don't need to be a company, can just trade individually as sole traders, but we don't support companies as sole traders. You can be a sole trader and registered for GST. But if you're trading as a company and you have salaried staff and you have debts and you have inventory and you have payroll and the kind of things that are the complexities that mean you need a company structure, then there are other very good routes to go down for that.
Sorry, I'm here. I'm like looking for MB Business Selector, trying to get that up. It's not going to happen this time. Google it. check out or ask support at digitalboost.co.nz. They're more on top of it than I am. The same question though, I'm just going to finish the question was, I'm currently using a CA, but I was considering doing it myself. Would you have a demo showing how the system works? Thanks. You would have a demo, right? And I think we've got demos.
hnry.co.nz. You can go and see demos. It's totally free to sign up, by the way. And we don't do high pressure sales. No one's going to phone you the minute you sign up and try and force you into using it. It's totally free. Sign up, look around, see how the product works. If it's right for you, then perfect, but totally understand that it's like for some people, they like to do it themselves. I've got a friend who likes doing his taxes. There's always one. But yeah, definitely have a look. And what I always say to everyone is do your research. Be comfortable with whatever you choose. If you want the whole thing just done for you, you can use Henry. If you want to go traditional accountant plus software, go find a good one there. But always make sure it's the choice that you want to take, not the choice that someone else makes for you.
That's great. We've got another, it's more of a comment. Janine says, Hootsuite can be a useful tool for managing social media. I guess when we were talking about Zapier, this one popped up. Can schedule posts in advance, use AI to help you draft your posts, which is great. Thank you, Janine.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Hootsuite is, and there's a bunch of them out there, like Buffer I've used in the past that's quite good. So effectively you can manage multiple social media channels through these tools, and you can post to all of them at the same time, and you can vary your content. So the sort of social media management tools are, again, really good for efficiency. So that's a great comment.
Yeah, thank you. And also, I'm just going to shamelessly plug on Thursday, if we're talking about AI, we've got Gal Kerman coming back for a workshop. So if you haven't signed up for it yet, we're going to be talking about AI and the future of marketing. So she's going to help us leverage AI for our marketing in a 2-hour workshop. So if you haven't signed up for it, please do. You'll get the recording if you can't come live, and that's fine. And if there are other questions that do pop up after this, or if you're watching the recording, come to us at support@digitalboost.co.nz or go to James or the team over at Henry. They're fantastic. James, you are always so engaging. You make the driest stuff fun. I love your Beanie Baby business. I mean, if I were showing my age, it would be Cabbage Patch Kids, but we're not. We're not talking about age.
No, thank you. Really appreciate you having me on and letting me talk about my Beanie Babies. That's the only example I've got in my brain when it comes down to it. So no, really appreciate everyone joining in this morning and those people on the live stream and people watching a bit later. It's always enjoyable to come and do this and just talk to everybody. Oh, we've got one last question. You snuck it in, Agatha. Can you use Henry and also the traditional accountant software? So accountant/software. So multiple tax agents, if you have multiple sources of income and sole trader is only one of the sources. Yes, you can. There's a lot of flexibility there. We have people who use Henry for their invoicing and tax payments, and then they have a traditional accountant who does the filings for them. So yeah, we have that combination. Obviously, for the majority of people, Henry is their accountant as well. But also, we know that people have family accountants or people they've been with for a while, and we're more than happy if someone else comes and takes the information out of Henry and does that filing for you if they're going to include other things. Oh, okay. We've got more. Oh, John. Hi, John. So John Boyle says, last question. James, can we reach out to you? I have a shameless plug for you. I know, John. You can reach out to me. And I'm going to say John is a yes. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm always like, just message me on LinkedIn if you can, or just drop me a line. More than happy to. And then we've got, thank you, great presentation and really useful ideas. James, it's always really useful. I really appreciate you coming on over and over and over. I'm going to drag you back in at some point, maybe in 2024, if we all live that long. So is that dark? That's pretty dark. It's pretty dark. It's Tuesday morning. Just bring it up a bit. No, pleasure. More coffee. Oh, fantastic. Again, questions, go to support@digitalboost.co.nz. Join us on Thursday. Come back for our other Q&As that are showing up. Thank you always for showing up, all of you who are coming and watching these live streams, wherever you're watching from. And I will see you again soon. Matewa.